bring in someone who knows a little bit about the uphill partisan battle here in Massachusetts. Former state representative Geoff Diehl. You will remember Geoff was the GOP nominee for U.S. Senate in 2018. First of all, Geoff, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, John, for having me.
Now, we're looking at, it's still early yet. Donald Trump appears to have an edge in Florida with a significant number of votes yet to be counted. Joe Biden appears to have an edge in North Carolina and Ohio, although we're looking at mostly early votes being recorded, and those are believed to skew more heavily Democratic. Without trying to prejudge the outcome here, what does it mean if we remain just an evenly split country? What does that mean for the prospect of getting anything done and, for instance, getting us out of this pandemic and economic crisis, in your view?
Well, I can tell you, having served in the Massachusetts legislature, when you have a supermajority of one party over the other, that's not a good thing either. Having evenness and balance in Washington is a good thing if there is respect for both sides and both their opinions. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of these people who have been elected are coming into office with what they assume is a mandate from just their side, the party that they're coming from, if they have a very dominant, state, either Republican or Democrat. I think it's important for politicians to take a step back and think that they're really representing people on both sides of the aisle who sent them to Washington. And in Massachusetts, as we've talked about in the past and as we're seeing tonight, there are no members from Massachusetts in the congressional delegation that are Republicans. So it makes it very hard to advocate with a Republican president if you're just going to take pot shots at him. So I think, it's okay to be evenly split, but let's have people who go down to Washington that actually keep in mind that they're representing both sides of the aisle.
Well, Geoff, you were a co-chairman of the Trump campaign here in Massachusetts 4 years ago. Were you surprised and/or disappointed that for the next 4 years, he did very little to reach out beyond his base and present himself, as you're describing, as the president of all the people, not just Trump-supporting Americans?
Well, I think Donald Trump looked past party. I think Donald Trump enacted policies like the tax cut that ended up giving record unemployment to our country, helped generate millions of new revenue and jobs, helped restructure trade deals with China, Mexico. I think Donald Trump was looking well past party and towards each and every individual American who had sent him to office back 4 years ago. So, the other thing, too, was as soon as he was elected, we found out there was a conspiracy theory against him with Russia that was proven to be false. So really, he was given almost no chance by one side of the aisle to, serve the country, but he did it anyway, and he was able to deliver on all the promises that he made.
Well, by the way, let me just correct the record here. If you read the Mueller report, you know that the statement that speculation about collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia was not proven false. It just did not reach a level of proof regarding an indictment, and the special counsel concluded that the president wasn't indictable. But let's talk for a moment, if you will, about the Republican Party here in Massachusetts. I mean, what's left of it, and what's become of it, and what's going to become of it?
Sure. Well, I've served in the legislature for 8 years. Somebody who served with me was Jim Lyons, who is now the chairman of the Republican Party. He took over just, I think, a year and a half ago. My wife and I actually, after my Senate race, decided to run for the state committee to serve with him. So we're both working with Jim to try to get the Republican Party to focus more on down-ticket races for the future, because as you've mentioned, and as I agree, I think a lot of people agree, we have a very shallow bench for candidates to run for office for the future. In just 2 years, we're going to need to have a full slate of people to run for governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, attorney general, and you name it, all the constitutional offices. So, we need to have people who are getting into office at the lower levels, into the legislature, who get the experience then to run for Congress or for those constitutional offices. I think Jim and a lot of people who are working with him now on the state party are trying to refocus on building that bench.